What's going on, guys? This is Real Deal Fantasy HQ with your boy LQ back in for another great episode. In today's episode, we're talking about my wide receiver fades for the 2021 fantasy football season. Now, we want to build the best roster, right? These guys have no chance of meeting my roster standards. These guys are probably going to be a bunch of bench warmers, and we do not want bench warmers, people. So I don't want to waste any more time, so let's get right into the episode. So surprisingly, I got 5 guys for you guys. 5 wide receiver fades I do not want any parts of. I want no smoke. So I'm going to start off with Henry Ruggs for the Raiders. Now, it's been reported the last week that, Gruden's trying to get him more involved, trying to figure out ways to get him more involved in the offense. But it's like, bro, this is the first wide receiver off the board off of that draft class, and then he's your first round pick. So with all these signs, all that's telling me is that you have no idea how to get him involved. You have no idea how to use him, and this doesn't make me want to draft him. This doesn't make me want him on my roster. So they went out and signed John Brown. He's a very, veteran, mouthpiece there. He's definitely a serviceable wide receiver. His days in Buffalo where we saw him actually be a top 25 wide receiver. Not last year, being that he was dealing with injury. He only played 9 games, so I'm not really talking about that season. But again, they bring in John Brown, maybe fresh start, a new arrival. He comes in, makes some noise, and we'll see what happens. But it's really the O-line, issues. It's that probably its weakest, and Derek Carr hasn't taken that immediate leap that we've been waiting for him. He's still like a mid-tier quarterback. I really feel like, Ruggs just isn't set up for success. And Waller is definitely going to be the number one option there, no doubt about it. The running back situation is a little wonky right now, but that doesn't really affect Ruggs. But I'm more focused on Ruggs possibly being, that third target in that offense. I'm not too sure how much effective he's going to be there. I'm not sure if he could stay on the field. If healthy, we don't know. We just don't know what's going to look like for a healthy Henry Ruggs going into the season. So maybe year 2, he gets a refresher, but I do not want to invest in a guy when he's searching, trying to figure his way out in that offense. But I really don't like, people saying, oh, well, Henry Ruggs, COVID last year, I get the COVID situation. They were very limited, the chemistry, et cetera, but the little bit that we did see from Ruggs, I wasn't really like jumping off paper for him. I wasn't like, wow, this guy is going to be a weekly starter. That's what this fade list is about. It's about weekly starters and bench warmers. And again, we don't want bench warmers. And I think Ruggs is going to end up being that bench warmer where you're not going to be able to time up just right of this week being the matchup. You need to play him to where he's going to pop off. So until he has that game where he pops off for like 20 to 25 and he does it for like 2 to 3 weeks, 4 weeks in a row, I'll be very impressed. But I haven't seen anything that jumped off paper for me to draft Henry Ruggs. So I'm telling you, you got to fade this guy. So Jalen Reagor is my next guy that I'm fading for the simple fact he shares some of the same qualities and reasons as Henry Ruggs of why I'm not drafting him. So we saw him have some type of role in that offense, with Wentz. It could have been because of Wentz's poor play. It could have been, again, the lack of chemistry he had with Jalen Hurts. But there was games where he had like 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 targets, and he wasn't very effective. I saw nothing from him that made me say, hey, this guy is a fantasy starter. Hey, this guy is going to be the wide receiver 1 for the Eagles. So them drafting him, a lot of people had high expectations for him, but not me. That really not much so, because it wasn't like anything to where like he was like an elite dominant receiver. And obviously with him, basically being replaced with Devontae Smith this year, kind of just proves into the factor that he's not that guy. He's not that it factor. So I think Devontae Smith obviously will be the number 1, pass catcher there. I think Dallas Goedert's going into his own, showing up into his own to where he could be the number 2 in that offense. And, Ertz is on the way out. So hopefully sooner than later, Ertz is out of the way. But even so, that just leaves Reagor as a possible 3, 4, sharing with Miles Sanders, seeing passes out of the backfield as well. So I definitely think, Reagor, he's one of those guys that are going to be just sitting on your bench for like 9 to 10 weeks. Let's just say more often than not, there's not going to be very much matchups where you're saying, hey, I need to start him this week, or hey, my guy's out this week with bye or injured, or like he's not going to be a guy that can step up and show out. So I'm not too excited about Jalen Reagor even wasting a pick on him. So I'm looking elsewhere. So it's definitely not a good sign when your new head coach comes in and he tells you to your face he doesn't like what he saw from you, from your film, from your route running, et cetera, your mechanics. Like, oof. Urban Meyer telling that to DJ Chark is probably one of the reasons why I'm fading Chark. It's not solely because of Urban Meyer expressing he didn't like what he saw. It's just now I feel like Chark is in a must prove himself mode right now. He has to prove himself to be a weapon on that offense, especially fit into Urban Meyer's vision. Now, obviously, Urban Meyer's going for speed. ETN is very explosive, got him playing in the slot, got him basically being reported as probably like one of the best pass catchers there. And that doesn't look good for DJ Chark, being that they bring in Marvin Jones. Chenault's coming into being probably the wide receiver one in Urban Meyer's offense. Like, it's literally not looking good. All the pieces around Chark doesn't make him as like sexy as a sexy pick to get him. So I feel like, DJ Chark, we seen him being inconsistent last season. 2019, we're 2 years removed from that. I definitely like, he had the upside to be a solid wide receiver too, week to week. But man, what these new weapons coming in, this Urban Meyer coming in, which is giving me Chip Kelly vibes from the jump. So we don't even know if they're going to be good, people. With a rookie quarterback, whole new system, we don't know anything about this offense yet. So this is the reason why I'm off of Chark, being that he's still going in the 6th, 7th round. That's a little too high. There's better value there for me that I'd rather much have there than dealing with, a stressful DJ Chark with everything around him just basically being better. So I definitely think, going into draft day, Chark is going to be there sitting on the board. You're going to want to draft him, but I promise you there's more value there. There's other guys out there that are going to give you more bang for your buck. He could possibly be the third option in his offense. You're probably thinking Marvin Jones is old, 30-year-old wide receiver, blah, blah, blah. But we watch Marvin Jones outperform his ADP year after year. Marvin Jones is one of those guys you were getting in the 10th round, and he's giving you solid week to week wide receiver too, a guy that's finding the end zone, et cetera, et cetera. So I definitely think a lot of people are sleeping on Marvin Jones, being that he's on a new team, et cetera, et cetera. But I think he's an all-around good wide receiver. So again, we've seen DJ Chark be inconsistent, and I don't want to deal with the headaches come Sunday saying if I'm going to start him this week, if not. So I'm just going to move on and possibly end up with a Chenault or possibly end up with a Marvin Jones, which is still going later in drafts. He's the forgotten one. He's the unsung hero. He's a guy that's going to outperform his ADP. So I'm much more leaning Marvin Jones than DJ Chark. Now, this next guy, Mike Williams, he is on a 5th-year breakout possibly. I don't want any smoke with it. I don't want any parts of it. I definitely think year after year, we've been wanting him to be a reliable week-to-week starter for us. We've been drafting him as high as the 6th round before. I definitely feel like he's been letting us down year after year. So I don't want to buy into Mike Williams. This would be my first year not buying into him, which is crazy. He's on a contract year. They drafted Josh Palmer, which I really think, could potentially be his replacement. I definitely like everything I liked about Mike Williams last year or the year before that, is that he's a physical wide receiver. He makes the catches that nobody else is going to think that he's going to be able to make. But that is the problem also. He's making these like freaking circus freak, catches, but he's very dangerous. Like, he lands hard. Like, it looks like it's painful for every time he goes up and catches that ball at the highest point. So there's an injury risk there as well. I'm not going to put that on that he's injury prone. But the dude hasn't had over more than 50 catches. That is something that's a problem for me. Yeah, that year he had 10 touchdowns, was great and all, but again, it's nothing reliable week to week out of Mike Williams for this last couple of years. And this is the first year where I don't find myself buying him or wanting to buy him because I just don't want the headache. Because let's think about it. When he is hitting on all cylinders, he puts up the 25 points, the 30 points, the 35 points or whatever. When he's hitting on all cylinders, it's more likely that he's on your bench than in your starting lineup. So that is another problem that I have about Mike Williams. More so than not, he's on your bench lighting it up. And you're sitting there looking like, oh, now he wants to pop up. But then you put him in the net next week, you're looking at 4 points. 4 points on like 7 targets. And that's something that bothers the hell out of me. So I definitely don't like how inconsistent Mike Williams could be. He could be a nightmare for your roster. He could definitely be a nightmare, on your bench as well, because you're sitting here watching him light it up, but you can't pull the trigger to sub somebody out who's been consistent, who's been giving you great points, and then put it into Mike Williams, and then he shits the bed. That is something I don't want to deal with, and Mike Williams gets the full fade. Now, last but not least, the 1 week wonder, Sammy Watkins, who has not finished an entire NFL season since his rookie season. So he's going into a run first offense. That is literally what he's walking into. He's running into a Lamar Jackson, Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, and we're running into Sammy Watkins possibly being the third option on that team. So I definitely think, there's weeks where, again, I bring it back to the Mike Williams thing where he's lighting it up, where he's hitting on all cylinders. Week 1, 2019 and 2020, if you look at his week 1, he exploded. Back to back, he gets that 1 week wonder. He's giving me a lot of the Sean Jackson vibes there, but I really feel like I'm not buying into this fresh start, this new team, the annual new team, Sammy Watkins, buy him when there's really no point. I really feel like him possibly being the third option. Yes, the third option. I'm giving Marquise Hollywood Brown, a.k.a. Tavon Austin, that second, look. I'm giving, obviously, Mark Andrews is the number one option in that offense. So I definitely think Sammy Watkins is no way in hell going to be a week-to-week starter for you, not even a plug-and-play if your guy's injured or if he's on a bye week. I just feel like, again, he's going to be another Mike Williams. He's going to be on your bench more times than not. And then that 1 or 2 times he lights it up on your bench, you're going to be looking like, oh my God, why did I draft this headache? You don't here's the thing. You want to build your team to where you have the least amount of headaches possible, the least amount of question marks. So yeah, there's upside. There's guys where you want to be very hopeful for, but these guys have been proven to burn you year after year. Mike Williams and Sammy Watkins, I'm talking about. They've been proven. It's there. It's public, information. It's there for you of burning you to where they just become bench warmers and you're on the teeter-totter. Oh, do I drop him? Do I drop him? Oh, I need to pick this guy up on a waiver. Just avoid the headache on draft day. That is where a lot of teams, people believe in that you can't lose on draft day. It's about maintaining throughout the season with trades, waiver wire, et cetera. But I think that's bullshit. You can make the dumbest decisions on draft day and still end up losing the entire year because you made that dumb decision. So I really feel like a team full of bench warmers is the dumb decision that is made on draft day. Yeah, you can make some trades. You can bring in some talent, use some of those bench warmers if another league mate is a believer. But I don't look at Sammy Watkins as bait. I don't look at Mike Williams as bait. I don't look like Henry Ruggs, Reagor, any of the other guys I named as bait to make a trade offer, because most of the time these guys, you can just get them off of waivers because they're probably not going to be reliable. So I definitely think, this list, especially speaking on these guys as a wide receiver, when there's plenty of value out there, wide receivers are deep this year. There's a lot of value surrounding around these guys' ADPs where you'd rather go elsewhere where it's less of a headache, less question marks. So definitely, I hope you guys come away with something out of this episode. So with this top 5 or 5 wide receiver phase, you guys should take this in consideration to just have them on basically your watch shit list, to let me watch on draft day, to work around him, to work around his ADP. Where's this guy going? Is this guy going to outperform this guy? Let's talk about, is he the first, second, third, fourth option in that offense? A lot of these third options don't become fantasy relevant, especially if the team isn't set up that way to spread the ball around. So Sammy Watkins, again, going into a run-first offense. You got a lot of guys there. You got Bateman there as well. You got Brown there. You got Andrews. I just don't see Sammy Watkins being a week-to-week starter or even fantasy relevant, more so than not. So that wraps up this episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode, and make sure you check out the new t-shirts on the Real Deal Fantasy Shop.com, and make sure you check out the website, man. I got a lot of fire content coming. I got a lot of things coming out that you guys will enjoy. So make sure you subscribe, like button, leave a comment below on what you guys think about the episode, and I'll see you guys next week for another great episode of Real Deal Fantasy HQ with your boy LQ. Peace.